identical, synonymous with biological material life. He goes on, the mysterious urgings of the blood, the appeals of heredity, and the past for which the body serves as an enigmatic vehicle, lose the character of being problems that are subject to a solution put forward by a sovereignly free self. Not only does the self bring in the unknown elements of these problems in order to resolve them, the self is also constituted by these elements, right? So, what happens when the spiritual becomes synonymous with the material? The spiritual self becomes synonymous with the biological material self. What happens is the mysterious urgings of the blood and appeals to heredity and this become the only expression of spirit. Blood becomes the expression of spirit. Heredity, meaning genetic inheritance, becomes an expression of spirit. Right? Blood and heredity serve as an enigmatic vehicle for spirit. So this is an explanation of Nazi ideology. The idea that spirit lies in genetics, essentially, right? Lies in a kind of material history. One of the sort of slogans of the Nazis was Blut und Boden, right? Blood and soil. And Nazi ideology, right, argues that German soil belongs by nature to German blood, right? That there is a kind of tribal propriety and ownership over land, right? That there is that spirit is expressed through the development of a people in a certain place. And, well, we'll continue. Right? He goes on, Levinas does. To be truly oneself does not mean taking flight once more above contingent events that always remain foreign to the self's freedom. Right? To be truly oneself does not mean taking flight above contingent events. Kant. Right? To be truly oneself does not mean escaping the world of contingency, the world of appearances, to find freedom in the autonomous self. On the contrary, to be truly oneself means becoming aware of the ineluctable original chain that is unique to our bodies, and above all, accepting this chaining. Right? To be truly oneself means becoming aware of one's determination, one's biological determination. My genetic inheritance becomes the seat of my true self. So, family, racial, national bonds, become the enigmatic vehicle of blood and heredity that binds us. And this kind of binding is the meaning of the spiritual for Nazism. Right? So this is, again, a kind of explanation of the origin of racism. That when spirit is understood materially as existing through bloodlines, right, then your spirit is contained to your bloodline, to your family or race, right? Or nation. A nation. There's a lot of debate in the late 18th century about what a nation meant and how to constitute a nation, but the word nation refers to natality, refers to those who share a birth, a people. Right? And there were debates between Herder and Kant about whether or not a nation could be constituted by more than one kind of people, whether or not a nation could be right, multiracial, and there's right, a lot of writing in the late 18th century about the identity between a nation and a people, what was then called a race, right? So on page 70, Levinas continues. The forms of a modern society founded on the harmony established between free wills will seem not only fragile and inconsistent, but false and deceitful. And for those who embrace this new meaning of the self, the true self lies in bloodlines and genes, right, in your family heredity. For those, forms of modern society, right, which are founded on harmony between free wills, between autonomous rational agents in a social contract. Right? So, in other words, liberalism will seem not only fragile and inconsistent, but false and deceitful. This whole idea in Nazi ideology, the whole idea of right, a free rationality consenting to laws and a right, free society of free agents who right, find their freedom through rationality and rational consent to law. That all sounds false and deceitful because freedom and identity don't lie in rationality. Freedom and identity lie instead in blood and soil, in heredity. And so the modern state looks false and deceitful. The assimilation of spirits loses the grandeur of the spirit's triumph over the body. Instead, it becomes the work of forgers. Right? This whole idea that we can overcome the body through rationality starts to look like the work of a forger, right? Is false. This is kind of Nietzschean, it's kind of Marxist, the idea, right, that the idea of a spirit, right, the idea of a soul, a conscience, is forged by society. Right? And social norms are false and deceitful. Levinas continues, and this is on page 70. A society based on consanguinity, right, meaning based on bloodlines, based on unity of of genetic identity immediately ensues from this concretization of the spirit, right? So when identity is when identity and spirit are made concrete through biological determinism, a society based on consanguinity, which a word I seem to not be able to pronounce, meaning bloodlines, becomes inevitable, right? Immediately ensues, he says. And then, if race does not exist, one has to invent it. Now, we've looked at Kant as one of the inventors of race, but Levinas is saying it's this kind of materialism that invents race, right? Spirit gets put into race as a consequence of this kind of materialism. And this is the ideology of fascism, right? And what happens to the person who has embraced this new kind of materialism, for whom liberalism has become false and deceitful? On 69, Levinas writes, he transforms